Okay, so I am going to show you how to add your design that you made in Procreate to the mockup in Photoshop. A couple places I want you to look. Over here on the toolbar, here's where all the tools are located. Each tool has its own presets and those come up along the top. Okay, and then over here is the layer panel. So just like in Procreate, you have layers and they're just as important as they are in Procreate. You can see in here that I gave you layers already, and those are going to be used to help you. I've sort of done the hard part for you in that I've made the selections, and all you have to do is kind of bring your image into the mockup. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to start by going up to File and then Place Embedded, and I'm going to come to my case design and I'm going to place it in. I'm going to hold the Shift key while I resize from the corner and make it about the size of the case, and then you can press Return. Okay. All right, so the next thing is a little bit tricky, but just follow along and you'll be just fine. We are making the selection for the case, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click Case Selection, and then I'm going to right-click on the image, not on the words, but on the image, and click Select Pixels. And you can see the little marching ants pop up. Then I'm going to make sure that I click on my artwork that I added in. Okay? That's really important. If you don't click there, it's not going to work correctly. And then I'll just come up to Layer, New, Layer via Copy. And if I turn my original artwork layer off on my layer palette, you'll see that it gives me a cutout. Now, that cutout still doesn't look right? It just looks like the design laid over the shape of the case. It doesn't really look realistic. There's no shadows or anything like that. What you'll do is you'll make sure you're on this layer, and then you're going to change what's called the layer style. Same thing as in Procreate. You have normal layer styles, you have multiply, you have all kinds of things. So when you click here, you'll see some of those familiar words that are in Procreate. We're going to change this to a multiply layer. And you can see that makes it look much more realistic that the design is actually on the case. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the same thing for the background. Okay, so now I'm going to come back up here. I'm going to go File, Place Embedded. I'm going to grab my background. This time I'm going to resize a little bit more strategically. And in order to do that, you might need to change the opacity of the image so that you can see through it a little bit. We're going to bring it back up in a little while. I'm going to hold the Shift key while I resize. Because you want the proportion of this to be correct to the image, you're going to make it the same width of that inside of the black. And then you can just nudge it up so that it's in the right place. And that looks about right. And then you can press Return. And you can go ahead and bring the opacity back up. And that, I mean, it looks okay, but it's still not perfect. So we're going to do the same thing we did for the case, except using the background selection. So again, we're going to click here. We're going to right-click, select pixels, and then the key thing is to make sure you go back to that image layer. Go up to Layer, New, Layer via Copy, and then turn off that original layer. Okay? And that looks pretty good on its own. If you come in and you make it a multiply layer, it will make the colors match up with the case a little bit better, so you can do that. And then your last step is just to come to this text layer. Right now it says my name. We need it to say your name. So you're going to come click on that text layer, and then you're going to go all the way over to the toolbar and click the T. And then you see you get a cursor that pops up. Click right on top of where my name is, highlight it, and type in your name. I'll just type my name again. Okay. You can then, to move it, like if it's not in the right place, you can use the Move tool, which is at the top of the toolbar, and just kind of nudge it over. Okay. And that's how you make your mock-up in Photoshop. Saving this, we want to make sure we save it two different ways. As a working file, which is a Photoshop file, and as a JPEG file, which is what you will upload to Classroom. Okay, so you're gonna make sure that you save first as a Photoshop file and then save as a JPEG file. And that's it.